Hey guys, today is unboxing day. What do I mean? Today is a surprise unboxing day. Now you have exactly 5 seconds, to write in the comments what you think I will receive today. 5, 4, I wait, let's go down. 3, 2, let's go down, let's go. 1, come on. Okay, we will unbox this one here today together. There are already a lot of other YouTubers out there who did unboxing and talked about the specifications of the MacBook Pro. This is the 2023 with the M2 Pro. But I want to talk about one important thing. How is it that Apple Silicon is so superior over all the other competition, especially the x86 architecture processors? And this is also the reason, or especially for us video editors, I know we are about iPad, we have already the M1 in it, but this is Apple Silicon. So you will also learn why is it that we can use the M1 or the M2 or whatever comes in the future in our iPad, and why is it so superior? And I want to answer that. I have to give credit to Cold Fusion as a YouTuber who makes a lot of interesting documentary style videos about tech, and he had made a video about especially the same topic, way better. If you want, you can watch that. I will link this in the description. But I want to give my rundown, my short version of that, okay? And so for that, you first have to know that this is my first Mac that I ever used. I only used Windows in the past. I'm also an Intel fanboy, or I was an Intel fanboy until Cold Fusion changed that because I learned a lot about Intel and the history and everything, and also the Apple Silicon. So let's talk about that. So how is it that Apple Silicon is so superior and can basically, and you have to think about it, that is the Apple Silicon is a mobile phone chip that can outperform desktop class chips that we had for the last 30-40 years, okay? There are two architectures. Number one is the x86 architecture. That's the architecture that Intel, for example, is using since the 80s, okay? But there's another architecture that is called ARM-based. ARM-based are those processors where you use in smartphones, okay? Since the smartphone revolution, since we had smartphones, we used a processor. Why? It's very simple. We needed a processor that uses less resources. And I will talk about that, why this is important, okay? So back in the 80s, 90s, you have to think about it like this. If you write a code, a program, okay? Like some software, you write a code for that. And now it's up to you, your skill set, how good this code is written. So I could write the same code like you, and let's say I'm a chaos person, I'm a beginner. My code is so filled with fluff and whatever, it's chaotic, but it means on every machine that I run this program, this machine has to read all of the code. So that means the resources, it needs more resources than maybe your code if you are a very good programmer and you know all about how to optimize it and everything and blah, 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 okay? So the way I program something can also make the application faster, better, and so on. And needs less resources, that's the important part. And you probably heard about this, for example, sometimes it's not our hardware that is limiting us, it's sometimes the software, that the software isn't programmed yet to utilize all of the features that our hardware has. You want one example? Nowadays, we have multi-core processors. So what does it mean? You have 8 cores, 16 cores, 32 cores, right? That means you have not just one processor, you basically have multiple processors into one. But there are applications still today that only run with one core. That means all of the other cores for that one software, they don't matter because the program is programmed in a way that it only uses one core. Okay, you get my point. So let's come back to x86 and ARM-based. So x86, every processor also needs a language how you can talk to the processor. So that basically a code how you can communicate with the processor, okay? And this is basically the foundation of every computer. So even if you have like an operation system like Windows or Mac OS, they use this kind of language to talk with the processor. So and if this processor language is already cluttered and complicated, then each application, each process has to run on top of that and makes it more complicated. Okay, you get my point? So that means the x86 was very complicated, but we stick to that one because x86 was very powerful, especially in the 80s and 90s. And when Intel started making their processors, they just kept using the same architecture, the same code. The only reason why we got faster and faster is because on the same amount of size, they placed more transistors, I think it's called in English, transistors, more and more. They started making everything smaller, so we changed to 5 nanometer technology and blah, blah, blah. But the technology is still the same. And ARM-based is the funny thing. Wasn't really developed in the smartphone age. It was actually already developed, the idea, back in the late 70s or 80s. I don't know the exact date, doesn't matter. The point is that already at that time, a couple of engineers thought about that, wait a second, the more advanced we get, we need a processor that is maybe more optimized, that has less code, that the foundation is already resourceful. And that is exactly what ARM-based is. And to jump forward to a story, Apple, for example, Steve Jobs, when they introduced the iPhone, he was actually approaching Intel because he wanted that Intel is working together with Apple and producing ARM-based chips and moving forward with ARM-based. But the funny thing is Intel turned down this opportunity because they didn't saw the future in smartphones. They thought it will still continue with desktop and laptops and stuff like that. So they said no. And Apple was basically forced to start their own projects, to use their own resources to be the leader on that particular case. You get my point. So that's the funny thing with M1 or M2. This is not the first Apple silicons. All the iPhones before had already the development of Apple silicons. And if you go back to the time when you had the A14, A15, A13, whatever, they were already very capable. Some of the older iPhones, you could run 4K material and go through the timeline and you had no lag. While my i9 on my Dell from 2020 lags when I try to scrub through the timeline. It's ridiculous, okay? But at that time, I did not know that. And so you have to think about it like this. If I'm on an x86 machine and I have Photoshop, and let's say Photoshop there is around 5 gigabyte on my hard drive, the same program on an ARM-based compiled is now around 600 MBs. So because the foundation is already different, everything on top is smoother. And that is the main reason why ARM-based is so superior over the x86. And they even showed a chart back in the 90s how ARM-based will become faster and faster and improve with jumps like 20% more speed, 20% more speed. And that's exactly what we have right now from M1 to M2, 20% more speed, 20% more speed, while Intel or x86 only get every year a little bit more with like 5%, 10% maximum. We reached the threshold where ARM-based is now on top of that list and x86 can't even compete anymore. And you want one example? Come on, you watched tech YouTubers when they made the tech between, okay, I compare a MacBook now with a Windows laptop. The funny thing is my Dell XPS with the i9 and the GeForce NVIDIA X whatever, if I want the full power, I have to plug it in to the charger. Without, I don't even have the full power. And next to it we have a MacBook without even plugged into power, and we have the full performance that this product can deliver. And this is very short form. I would encourage you to watch the video from Cold Fusion. It was opening my eyes, and that is the reason why I think when M1 Apple Silicon came to desktop and Macs and our iPad, it was such a big thing, same like back in the days when the first iPhone was introduced with capacitive screens, with multi-touch screens. I think it was that big of a change. Anyway, it's already too long that I was talking about. That is the reason also why I got one, because I see it solely for video editing. I think this machine will be so much better than my laptop before for video editing. It's a powerhouse. And for me, exciting to now the first time also learn on a Mac. I will keep continuing with the iPad, of course, and stuff like that, so don't be worried. Now I can help you even more. If you have problems bringing projects over from Mac to the iPad, now I can look into this. Anyway, that's all from today. I wish you an amazing day. We'll see us tomorrow. See you soon. Bye.